Let's get more on this now with Swaran Singh in New Delhi. He's a Professor of International Relations at Jawaharlal Nehru University. Welcome to the program, Professor. Looking ahead to these talks in Chanthaburi, what would a credible ceasefire need to include to avoid another breakdown?
Thank you. I think first of all, there must be some kind of observers mechanism to ensure verification, because otherwise both sides are accusing each other of what is happening. And of course, also simultaneously, they have to do two more things. One, start the process of demining in their border areas and also give assurances to safety of civilians, because that is the biggest cause in this region, which is not intensely urbanized region. Still, we are hearing nearly 1 million people being displaced, 60 people dying in last 2 weeks or so, and has led to enormous question and problems of livelihoods, of border trade, of investor confidence, and whole sort of other regional instability is up in the credibility also in that sense, because 15 foreign ministers on Monday had expected the talks to begin. So in multiple ways, the fundamental problem here is that of lack of trust. And that can be built only, of course, once they start talking, or ASEAN's intervention in that direction. Obviously, Cambodia is not very comfortable having the talks in Chanthaburi, as you mentioned. They want the talks to happen in a neutral venue, ideally in Kuala Lumpur again. And there are still disjunctions. Cambodia has even spoken of taking it to International Court of Justice. Thailand from 60s doesn't believe that ICJ will have any jurisdiction here. So the problems are not political at this stage, fundamentally technical at largely logistical as to where they want to meet. But because talks are getting delayed, they are becoming more complicated because accusations are being furled on each other and people on the ground are really suffering. And in that sense, a ceasefire to become credible must have certain kind of, I think, neutral third party monitoring to actually see what is happening on the ground, so that these accusations against one each other further flaring up the mistrust or distrust can be managed a little better.
Professor, Malaysia and the US, including President Trump, were involved in brokering the earlier truce that failed. What does its collapse say about the limits of external mediation in this dispute?
I think normally the kind of urgency with which one after another ceasefire has been kind of pushed around is partly why they keep failing again and again from July onwards. And again, therefore, I think need is to think more seriously in that sense of how to go towards ceasefire and not just stop at ceasefire, take it to certain amount of demarcation, peace agreement as a continuing process. Whereas it seems that the ceasefire ultimately becomes the aim here, and post-ceasefire activities are not followed up. And therefore, this is a lingering, ongoing problem. And therefore, I think you can involve external actors, but then that should not undermine the centrality of ASEAN, and Malaysia in that sense should be on the lead, even when China or United States wants to continuously work together. I understand that an official who is an envoy on Asian affairs from China visited 2 days back in Cambodia. If that was to happen on Monday in Kuala Lumpur, as an envoy from China also joining, would have ensured ASEAN staying at the center of it, which of course ASEAN doesn't have any coercive powers. It can only persuade and kind of nudge and urge for talks to begin between Cambodia and Thailand. But yes, since ASEAN seems to be not really being able to push both sides into early conversations with each other, or any way of signing another ceasefire agreement or sustaining a ceasefire, yes, China and United States will be extra regional powers joining in mediation, but that ideally should happen through ASEAN, because ASEAN can sustain that in long term.
Okay, Professor Swaran Singh, thank you very much again for joining us on the program.